Hi. I have a lot coming up today, so this might feel like a downpour for you, and I hope that it's helpful, but I'm just gonna kind of let it all out. Hopefully it gives you some chunks to consider for your own journey. So I am in the process of getting a new kitchen, which looks like an entire remodel. And I don't say this with a lot of comfort, to be honest, because one, it feels unsafe to do so, and I'll tell you why in a second, but also it feels like those aren't things you're allowed to say because, my God, nobody's allowed to know those things about you because that would be bad. So when I was probably 6 years old, my parents got our house redone, and we lived in a twin home, and the other side was my grandparents' side, and both sides were like in very terrible shape and very dirty. I mean, literally, like I lived in, my grandmother was a hoarder. It was like insane. There was peaches, like cat shit from like 20 years ago. But the house itself structurally is beautiful. So when my grandfather died and my parents could eventually do it, they pulled the houses together, made them look nicer, and we got white pillars out front, and it was like this big deal. We got like this walkway. I remember being that age and thinking like, oh my God, my parents must be rich. Like they're putting in bricks to lead us to our house instead of just like walking through the grass or whatever. So the remodel was awesome. I was excited, but it also came with a lot of stress from my parents. And then something happened in my family system where my mother and I left. Let's just say that. We were kicked out. We left. I don't know what it was, but we weren't there anymore. So I watched my parents go through this process of up-leveling and then, demolishing the house as it was, recreating it how they wanted it, and then not being able to hang with the recreation in their relationship as it was. So the new look didn't change the dynamic, and I think that was really tragic for them. So we ended up being kicked out, and I would come back to the house that I was just so excited that like got redone that I could live in, to see my dad sometimes, and it would be like, I would hear like, oh, he has a girlfriend there or whatever. And so it never felt like it was cool, right? Like it felt like, oh, maybe if they didn't level up, they'd be fine, right? This would be fine. Maybe if they didn't do that big, risky, crazy thing that stressed them out like crazy, they'd be fine. So fast forward 30 years. Here's me, probably a similar age to my mother when she was redoing it. And let's talk about relationships and how that goes, because my kitchen being redone is an amazing, joyous thing that everybody on the planet should be grateful for, and I'm deeply grateful for it. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't come with this processing of emotion that's so subtle and so subconscious. It's insanity. So let's talk about gaslighting, because I don't know if this is the vibrational trigger, like my house being redone, and it puts me in the pattern of feeling like what is going on here back in the day. I'm not sure what it is, but yesterday, my partner, who is amazing, I wish everybody on the planet has a partner like him. He's not one of those people who, how like we say to our kids, because we could look at gaslighting in many ways, but you know how like your kid falls and they're like, no, I'm not fine. You're like, no, really, you're fine. And they're like, no, I'm not. That on a very subtle scale could be considered gaslighting because you're saying that's not your real experience, right? But he is a person that I trust would tell me when I was fine and when I wasn't fine. And this is why I wish everybody would have a partner like him, because he really does have my best interests at heart. And he was being a real big pain in the ass, and he was in a state reflecting my state. I woke up in work mode, and when I have the association with work mode, it goes to, why are you not doing the exact thing that I think you should be doing in my mind? I get frantic, and then he reflects back to me, because on a scale of like, you know, if you think about complex PTSD and how Pete Walker speaks about it, he talks about how on one side there's the fight response, and then there's the flight response, then there's the fear response, or I'm sorry, the freeze response, and then the fawn. Well, what I know about my energetics is that when I'm normally defaulting to in between fawn and freeze, but when I don't have to do that, I am flighting. So when I associate work in my field, even if it's deeply subconscious, I get flighty. And then Chris, because he's a little bit more on the fighter end of things, he fights me because he feels what I'm feeling, and he's like, why are you doing that? Why are you that impatient? Why are you like, why do I feel that from you? Instead of just going, oh, that's hers, I don't have to feel it, or oh, that's hers, let me, because I know how she's feeling, which is like this, which I don't like, what would I need her to do for me? And I should be asking myself the same things. But in this very moment, specifically yesterday, which is what I'm talking about, he reflected to me. He didn't even have the words, right? He doesn't have the vocabulary, and he'll say, I'm sorry, I don't have the vocabulary, but he reflected to me something, and he said, I feel like what's happening is that you'll say something or do something, and then I will have a reaction to it that you knew I would have, which, to be fair, wasn't true, but I didn't know that he would have that reaction. But he said that you knew that I would have, and then you told me basically I was an asshole for reacting like that. And I was like, so what you're telling me is that I'm gaslighting you. That's like classic gaslight, right? And he's like, I don't have the words for it, but whatever you're doing, like, it sucks. I'm like, oh my God, this is interesting, because that's how I was raised. And I can't go, no, like, there's an older version of me, or a more wounded version of me that would go, no, this is yours, let me like deflect this onto you, this is all you, or this is at least mostly you. And that's not what happened, and that's not what happens for me usually, especially when somebody I trust is reflecting something to me that I trust. And I said, I'm really sorry that that's your experience. And I imagine that because that was what I was impressed with, that would be in my field. That I would be somebody who would grow up and have a psyche default when it's in a stress response to like that. And it's interesting because for me, I didn't notice it. It wasn't, and he kept saying, I don't even think it's conscious. I don't think you're consciously doing it. And that is also the point. That doesn't make it right or fair, but it is interesting to go, oh, that person who was gaslighting me constantly was not conscious. And when you're gaslit and you live in a world where you're gaslit and that's your reality, that's why I wrote a book called Imperfectly Sane, right? Like, you literally, your biggest fear is not even death. It's like, am I actually the insane one? Like, were they right? Because they told me I was crazy for like having an experience and having a reality and like knowing things beyond extrasensory and whatnot. And your biggest fear is like, oh my God, what if I actually lost it? What if I was actually crazy? So I never want to gaslight my partner, but that doesn't mean that I never do. And to even be aware of that, and to have him reflect to me and say, okay, this is what my experience is, and me go, okay, it sucks that's happening for you. I don't even have to blame myself, but I have to look at myself, and I have to step back and say, I see that he's triggered. I see that he's actually, what's happening is he's feeling my state, and because he's more of a flighter, when I'm a flighter, like, let me just go do it now. It'd be easier and quicker for me to do it myself. And then he'll fight me on why I feel that way, and let's talk about it, and let's just like do it together. And I'm like in a flight way, and then he'll fight with my flight. Does that make sense? And then he tries to like capture me, lock me in places, and then I get fight, right? But I have to be cornered to get into that space. So this is the dynamic that goes on, and it wastes, quote unquote, it wastes a lot of our time, or it did yesterday at least. So there is a repeated story here, which is on a DNA level, that leveling up is going to cause me to lose the thing I really want, right? And I know that this sounds quote unquote juvenile, or to some other people, like Chris is like, I don't look at it that deep. I'm like, I'm never looking at it depthfully. I don't sit and process the shit that comes to me. It's like, that's just the way I see it, right? I don't look at it as depthful either, but there is a DNA biological reaction to experiences that we've had prior in our life, and never in my life before did I go through a kitchen remodel, right? And here I am going through a kitchen remodel, and the last time I went through it, my father, had extracurricular people in his life. And what do you think my mind is doing right now? My mind is all of a sudden looking at my partner like he's going to be doing that. So I'm looking at him with a stink eye of like, maybe we're not what I thought that we were. And that's not even my story. That's not my story. But when I bring that story subconsciously, because I'm not aware that these patterns, and I'm aware, thank God, but if I'm unaware until I'm aware, I recreate that story because it's the thing that my biology knows how to do in that situation. So in order to protect myself, I have to be in the know, like what's really coming next. And the last time I went through this, the man that I loved more than anything said he was choosing somebody else. So my biology is flighty right now because I'm going, and this is truly what's going on, which is funny because I'm just coming to this right now as I'm speaking, but what's really true is, that's funny. It's so funny. This is exactly where I lost it yesterday. I was walking at exactly this spot. See the stories that we create in the Matrix? I guess this is my glitch spot. But what I'm getting at, this is also the spot yesterday where I said, this is what I'm trying to say, is that if my biology is wired to have a memory that feels stressful, and I am now, I am now suiting up and gearing up to have to take care of myself, right? Because that's what happened last time. So I'm going, well, if he isn't moving at my pace, which was another interesting thing that we came to, then, he's basically in my way, and I have to make sure I'm taken care of, because if this goes bad, and this is not even my relationship. Like, I have an amazing relationship. Consciously, we're amazing. But this is the thing that sucks about people that love each other and just can't figure it out, is that unconsciously, we're being driven by other people's stories, right? Oh my God. So this isn't even my story, and I'm living into it and recreating it because my biology is telling me, if you level up, they're gonna leave, you're gonna be moved out, basically, and there's gonna be another choice that's better than you. So you better gear up and get your ass in shape to make sure that you are gonna survive, quote unquote, on the other side of that. So I'm all of a sudden, because we're like in the middle of this kitchen redo, freaking out in flight mode. I gotta work, I gotta hurry up, I gotta take care of my shit. And he's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, just sit down. Why are you being like that, right? So when he says to me, this is what I feel like you're basically, he says, I don't have the terms, but what he suggested was that I was gaslighting, and I had to go, oh my God, okay. I mean, I can't deny that I would be doing that right now. And let's look at the state that I have to be in order to put somebody through that, right? Because I could deflect. I could find literally every avenue I wanted to cognitively to tell him how I'm not gaslighting. But the reality is, if that's his experience, I'm doing that thing. And sure, if I was a less naive or version of myself, somebody could have talked me into that I was the abuser at a different point. That's not what he's trying to do, so let me get it clear. He's literally just trying to bring awareness to me. And there is a mind, and I've had that mind before, that could be talked into, no, you literally are the insane one, you're the one doing this. That is not what's happening. So I have to, even though I can make every reason to say I'm not gaslighting, and I literally could come up with a bunch. That is his experience. And for me to say, even though he's saying I'm not fine with it, to say, no, you are fine, that's one thing. You're fine, obviously. But to say, you are fine and I am fine, instead of, okay, you're fine and let me look at that and work on that. That's a different story. So there's a couple things going on in this thing, which is just a couple ideas that, one, when you go through an experience that you've been through before in a different setting, your body's going to do the same thing and your mind's going to gear up to do the same thing your body had to do last time. So there's that piece. There's another piece that you're likely carrying around the stories of your family, whether you know them or not, whether you live them or not. They're in your cells, they're in your DNA, okay? There's that piece, and that's why I feel so bad for a lot of people, because that's another thing about this like relationship thing too. A lot of people go like, I need my partner to like grow with me, and I've actually had the really amazing benefit of having a partner who's not interested in self-development. He's been very just to the core and like wise in his own, and I'm not saying that that's forever, but what I am saying is that that kind of person taught me that it's okay to just be a person, right? So the other day I said to him, when it comes to work, and I want everybody who resonates with me to take this into consideration, because my guess is you're exactly like me. I said, I need you to be more hare-like, because I experience him as being very tortoise-like, and that's okay. He teaches me to slow down. And he said, listen, I need you to be more hare-like, because hare, he's not running around all frantic and crazy, out of breath, going nuts. He's smooth as shit. And if you want to be a hare, that's fine, but at least do it smoothly. You're like tortoise and then the hare, tortoise and then the hare. And it's normally in a response to a biological trigger that like is so deep in my subconscious, I don't even know what's going on. Now that I know, okay, my body's gearing up to like have to do that again, to have to be chosen, not the chosen one, to have to be kicked out, to not get the benefit of the beautiful thing that happened anyway, to wonder what it was all for, and to just go back to like not having done all of those things that they said were gonna make it better, right? So, he experiences me not even as a tortoise, and he experiences me and not as the hare. He says, you're not smooth like a hare, right? So that's something to think of too, because we have very different rhythms. And that's fine. That's okay, right? A lot of people come to me like, my partner isn't doing this thing and he's not doing that. And I feel like the only way to really heal and to be in yourself is to take self-responsibility, period. So it's easy every single time. Every single time I think about, oh my God, he like slept past the alarm, right? Like it's easy for me to be like, he's sleeping past the alarm. I want him to get up because the alarm's going off, instead of like, okay, be that person, jackass, like get up. It's so easy when you're in a partnership to think, well, my partner has to do this with me, my partner has to be there with me, and your partner can be there side by side with you for sure, but it doesn't always mean that your partner has to be there with you, because it's very easy the second that we assume that they have to be there, they have to do the thing with us, they have to be that like honor, that like commitment to self-mastery with us. That's not a genuine commitment to self-mastery, because self-mastery is that you can master all situations, period, and love yourself and the other through them. So if my partner isn't the person that I want him to be, that I'm likely not being the person that I want to be. And it's very easy for me to then blame that person, right? And then when we blame, we don't want to take self-responsibility. So point in that is, if somebody's saying something to you, and I hear a lot of people say, like, if somebody says something to you, you're probably that thing. Well, a lot of people can project a bunch of bullshit onto you too. So like, no, that's not true. But if you have somebody who you know loves you, and I mean, you know that, and they're reflecting to you something that you're doing, and you know, at minimum, they have your best interest at heart on a real level, like not some frenemy type shit, then they're offering you a solid reflection by telling you who you're being and what their experience is, because it's very vulnerable for them too to share with you what their experience is of you, right? Like you're blessed to have a person be able to do that with you who's not doing it from a condemning kind of way. So there's a lot in there, but I'm grateful to be in my relationship and to be able to actually hear what somebody says to me when they say it, instead of go, no, this is how you're doing that. Because to be fair, I mean, I could run circles around the situation. He is doing it. We're both doing the dance, right? And that's just more of the same bullshit. So for me to self-reflect and go, okay, it makes sense, it's in my field. Why is it coming up in my field? Why would I be gaslighting my partner right now? What's going on in my external environment that would make me feel so out of control that I would feel the need to kind of dissociate and be so unconscious that I'm gaslighting my partner? Oh my God, last time, the kitchen got redone. So things to consider. I hope that this is helpful for you if you are new to my channel and you dig the content and you even, to be fair, understood what the hell I'm talking about. Please subscribe. It means the world to me to have you here. I am Stacy Hoch, somatic embodiment coach, and first of all, mama of 4. Hit me up on my walk today, hoping to heal thyself with you, and hope that you can take some reflections through that healing. Bye. Have a great day.